After my divorce, I promised myself I would never force my way into another family. I knew what it felt like to watch something you built collapse piece by piece. I knew how silence could fill a house louder than shouting. I knew what it meant to sign papers that reduced years of memories to legal language and numbered paragraphs. So when I met Nicole, I didn't walk into her life looking for another chance to play hero. I simply wanted peace. She was warm in the quiet way that exhausted people often are. No dramatic promises. No fairy tale speeches. Just honest conversations over coffee that somehow stretched until the restaurants closed around us. She laughed less than most people. But when she did, the whole room changed. Nicole came with 2 little girls. Haley was 8. Brooke had just turned 6. I never asked them to call me Dad. Not once. They already had a father. Mark. He wasn't completely absent. He drifted in and out of their lives whenever it suited him. Some birthdays he appeared carrying oversized gifts that cost more than they should have. Some Christmases he'd promise vacations that never happened. Sometimes months passed without a phone call. Children don't measure consistency. They measure excitement. I understood that. When Nicole and I married 2 years later, I walked into that house knowing I would always be second place. I accepted it. Or at least I believed I had. The first years weren't terrible. Awkward. Uncertain. But manageable. The girls were polite enough. They thanked me when I drove them somewhere. They smiled when I helped decorate birthday cakes. They accepted Christmas presents without looking uncomfortable. I told myself trust simply needed time. So I invested time. A lot of it. Every weekday started the same way. Breakfast. School drop-offs. Soccer practice. Dance lessons. Piano recitals. Science fairs. Dentist appointments. If one of the girls forgot a lunchbox halfway through first period, my phone rang. If a tire went flat after volleyball practice. My phone. If a school project was suddenly due tomorrow. My phone. If Brooke shattered her phone screen. Mine became hers until I fixed it. If Haley's laptop refused to start the night before an assignment was due. I stayed awake until 2 in the morning replacing a failed drive because I didn't want her grades to suffer. No one asked where the replacement parts came from. No one asked why I looked exhausted the next morning. I just did what needed to be done. That's what fathers do. Or at least that's what I believed fathers did. Money disappeared in ways that were almost invisible. New cleats because the old ones were too small. Field trips. Senior photos. Braces. Prom dresses. Car insurance. Birthday parties. Emergency room deductibles. Gas. Gas again. Then more gas. Little expenses that somehow became thousands of dollars every year. Nicole would apologize sometimes. You don't have to do everything. But she never stopped letting me. Neither did I. Somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking about whose responsibility it technically was. Responsibility doesn't care about biology. If someone needs help, you help. At least, that's how I was raised. The strange part was this. Whenever something broke, I was family. Whenever someone needed money, I was family. Whenever a ride was needed at 6 in the morning, I was family. Whenever there was a late-night emergency, I was family. But during conversations with relatives, I became something else. "Oh, this is Ryan," Nicole's aunt would say. "Our girls." Then she gestured toward me. "And this is Nicole's husband." Not stepfather. Not parent. Not even part of the sentence. Just Nicole's husband. The girls never corrected anyone. Why would they? It matched the way they already saw me. At birthday dinners, Mark was always Dad. Even when he didn't show up. Even when he'd canceled 15 minutes before dinner. Even when Nicole quietly paid the restaurant bill because he never intended to. His chair stayed reserved. Mine was simply available. If he suddenly appeared halfway through dessert carrying expensive shopping bags, he became the center of the room. The girls lit up. Dad's here. I watched from the end of the table while the man who hadn't answered their calls for 3 weeks became the hero because he walked through a door holding gift bags. Then he'd disappear again. Usually before the check arrived. I stayed behind. I always stayed behind. Years passed that way. Haley got older. Brooke learned to drive. I taught both of them. Not Mark. Me. I spent entire weekends in empty parking lots explaining blind spots, parallel parking, highway merging, panic braking. The first time Haley drove onto the interstate, her hands shook so badly she nearly missed the entrance ramp. I talked her through every mile. She eventually smiled. You made that look easy. I laughed. It wasn't you that made it difficult. She smiled back. For a moment, it actually felt real. Like maybe we were becoming something resembling family. Then we got home. Mark happened to call. The first words out of her mouth were, Dad, guess what? I drove on the highway today. Not. Ryan taught me. Not. Ryan helped. Just. Dad. I stood in the garage putting away the training cones I'd bought. Listening. Invisible again. It became a pattern. One I eventually stopped pretending not to notice. Whenever I solved a problem, the problem disappeared. So did the appreciation. I wasn't remembered. I was expected. And expectations are dangerous. Because the moment people expect sacrifice, they stop seeing it. They start believing it simply exists. Like electricity. Or running water. Or air. I didn't realize it then. But I had quietly become all three. The older they became, the sharper the distance grew. Not louder. Sharper. Haley learned sarcasm early and used it like a knife she kept polished. Brooke was quieter, but her silence had teeth. She would roll her eyes when I spoke, look past me when I entered a room, answer questions with one-word replies that made me feel like a stranger asking for directions in my own kitchen. Nicole saw it. Of course she saw it. She would give me those tired looks that meant, please don't make this harder. So I didn't. I swallowed it. Again. And again. And again. When Haley needed new tires because she had driven on bald ones for months despite my warnings, she didn't ask. She announced it. My car needs tires. I looked up from my coffee. Did you price them? She shrugged. I figured you knew where to go. Not thank you. Not can you help? Just the assumption. So I paid. When Brooke dropped her phone in a parking lot and shattered it so badly the screen looked like cracked ice, she came home furious at the world. I need it fixed today. I asked. Did you back anything up? She snapped. Can you just handle it? Nicole looked at me from across the room. Tired. Silent. Waiting. So I handled it. That was the shape of my life. Their emergencies became my obligations. Their mistakes became my invoices. Their disrespect became something everyone expected me to absorb because I was the adult. Because I had chosen this marriage. Because men like me are praised for endurance right up until endurance hollows them out. Then one Friday night, the truth finally stopped hiding. Nicole had planned dinner. Nothing special. Just pasta, salad, bread warming in the oven, the kind of meal meant to pretend we were still normal. Haley came in late, slamming the door behind her. Brooke followed 20 minutes after, irritated because traffic had ruined her plans. Nicole tried to keep things light, asking about work, school, weekend schedules. I barely spoke. I had learned that sometimes peace depended on my silence. Then Brooke mentioned needing a ride the next morning. Her car was making a grinding sound again, the same sound I had warned her about 2 weeks earlier. I said calmly, You shouldn't drive it until someone checks the brakes. She didn't look at me. Mom, can you take me? Nicole hesitated. I have that appointment, remember? Brooke sighed dramatically. Then Ryan can. Not ask. Can. I set my fork down. Brooke, I can look at the car Sunday, but tomorrow I have work. She stared at me like I had spoken in another language. It's one ride. It's one ride after ignoring the problem for 2 weeks. Haley laughed under her breath. That small laugh did something to me. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I looked at her. Something funny? She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. You always act like helping us is some huge sacrifice. The room changed. Nicole whispered, Haley. But it was too soft. Too late. I said, It usually is a sacrifice. Brooke rolled her eyes. Here we go. I felt something old and exhausted shift in my chest. Do either of you understand how much I've done for you? Haley's face hardened. Nobody asked you to. There it was. The first bullet. Brooke followed with the second. Yeah. You chose to marry Mom. That doesn't make us your kids. Nicole stared at her plate. I waited for her to speak. To correct them. To say one sentence that proved I had not imagined the family I thought we were. She said nothing. The silence was worse than the words. I turned back to the girls. So what am I then? Haley didn't hesitate. Mom's husband. Brooke nodded, colder now because she felt safe behind her sister. You're not our dad. I looked at Nicole. Still nothing. Just her fingers tightening around a napkin. Haley pushed her chair back slightly, as if preparing to leave the conversation with the last word. And then she gave it to me. You'll never be real family. Brooke added, almost bored. You need to stop acting like you are. Something inside me became very still. Not angry. Not loud. Still. There are moments in a man's life when pain becomes clean. When the fog burns away and every lie he told himself stands naked in front of him. That was mine. I saw every school morning. Every late-night repair. Every birthday gift wrapped after midnight. Every oil change. Every emergency transfer. Every time I left work early because one of them was stranded. Every time Mark ignored their calls and I answered mine on the first ring. I saw all of it. And I saw what it meant to them. Nothing. I had been useful. Not loved. Convenient. Not respected. Available. Not family. I nodded once. All right. Nicole looked up then, frightened by how calm I sounded. Ryan. I pushed my chair back slowly. No. They finally said it clearly. I appreciate that. Haley looked confused, almost offended that I wasn't yelling. Brooke frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I heard you. I stood, picked up my plate, and carried it to the sink. My hands did not shake. That surprised me. For years I had imagined the breaking point would be explosive. A slammed door. A shouted argument. Words I couldn't take back. But the end came quietly. Water running over a plate. A fork placed in the dishwasher. A man realizing he had been dismissed from a job he never should have accepted without dignity attached. Behind me, Nicole said, Girls, go to your rooms. Haley muttered something. Brooke scraped her chair. Footsteps left the kitchen. Only then did Nicole speak. They didn't mean it like that. I turned off the water. Yes, they did. They're young. They're old enough to drive, work, spend money, make demands, and define family. They're old enough. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt no comfort in them. Tears were easy. Defense would have mattered. You know how much they depend on you, she whispered. I looked at her for a long time. And there it was. Not how much they love you. Not how much you mean to them. Depend. That single word finished what the girls had started. I dried my hands. Then they're about to learn the difference. Nicole stepped closer. Ryan, please don't do anything out of hurt. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because hurt was the only thing in that house that had ever truly belonged to me. I'm not, I said. I'm doing it because they told me the truth. Then I walked upstairs. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside my wife in the dark, listening to a house full of people who had needed me for years and never once wondered what would happen if I believed them. By morning, I had made my decision. No speech. No warning. No revenge. Just absence. They wanted me to stop acting like family. So I would. The next morning looked exactly like every other Saturday. That was the strange part. The coffee machine hummed. The television murmured in the living room. Nicole folded laundry at the kitchen island. Haley scrolled through her phone. Brooke searched for her car keys. Nothing about the house suggested that anything had changed. Only I knew that everything had. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger demands energy. I was simply finished. Brooke walked into the kitchen first. I'm leaving in 10. Can you drive me to Ashley's? Normally I would have grabbed my keys before she finished the sentence. Instead I took another sip of coffee. No. She looked up, confused. What do you mean, no? I mean you'll need another ride. She laughed once. I'm serious. So am I. For several seconds she simply stared at me. Then she looked toward Nicole. Mom? Nicole looked caught between panic and disbelief. Ryan. I shook my head. They said I'm not family? The room fell silent. Brooke frowned. What does that have to do with giving me a ride? Everything. You've always driven us. I know. She crossed her arms. So I don't anymore. She waited for me to smile. To admit I was making some dramatic point. When I didn't, irritation replaced confusion. This is ridiculous. Maybe. But you'll still need another ride. She grabbed her phone and stormed out of the kitchen. I heard one call. Then another. Then another. Ashley couldn't come. One friend had work. Another was out of town. Finally she called Mark. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Nothing. For the first time in years, I didn't solve the problem. Haley was next. She walked into the garage holding her car keys. My engine light came back on. I looked up from the toolbox I was organizing. It probably needs to go to a mechanic. She frowned. I know that. I waited. She sighed dramatically. So can you look at it? No. She blinked. What? I'm not looking at it. It'll take you 5 minutes. Maybe. But I'm still not doing it. She stared at me as though I had suddenly started speaking another language. You always fix it. I used to. What changed? You explained it during dinner. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, are you seriously still doing this? No. I'm simply listening. She slammed the garage door hard enough to rattle the shelves. 2 hours later she paid nearly $400 for a diagnostic inspection that revealed a loose sensor I could have replaced in 15 minutes. I never mentioned it. Nicole did. Quietly. You could have saved her money. I nodded. I could have. Then why didn't you? Because mechanics work on customers' cars. She looked confused. I'm not family. She closed her eyes. Ryan. I finally understand my position. By Monday the routine had begun falling apart. Brooke missed work because no one could drive her after her brakes finally failed. Haley borrowed rides from coworkers until people became tired of changing their schedules. Nicole started leaving work early to rescue one daughter while arriving late to help the other. The phone rang constantly. Not mine. Hers. I noticed something interesting. No one asked how my day had been anymore. They only discussed logistics. Who needed a ride? Who needed money? Who needed help? Without realizing it, they had turned Nicole into the person I had quietly been for years. She was exhausted after only 3 days. On Thursday evening she dropped her purse on the kitchen counter and rubbed both temples. I can't keep doing this. I looked up from my book. Doing what? Everything. The words hung between us. Everything. I almost smiled. Not because she was suffering. Because she had finally named the invisible job I had been doing for years. You mean driving? and scheduling, and leaving work, and picking them up, and figuring everything out. I nodded slowly. Yes. She looked at me. Really looked at me. For perhaps the first time in years. You did all this. I did. I never realized. No. You didn't. Before she could answer, Haley walked in carrying another repair estimate. $612. She placed it directly in front of me. My transmission needs work. I slid the paper back across the table. I hope you find a good mechanic. She didn't move. I can't afford this. I understand. She stared at me. Aren't you going to help? I met her eyes. I thought that wasn't what Mom's husband does. Her face changed. Just for a second. The confidence cracked. You know that's not what I meant. Actually, I think it is. She looked toward Nicole. Mom, say something. Nicole remained silent. Not because she agreed with me. Because she finally had no argument left. The estimate stayed on the table. So did the silence. That evening Brooke knocked on my office door. It surprised me. She hadn't entered that room in months. She stood awkwardly in the doorway. My laptop isn't turning on. I looked at her. The same laptop I had upgraded twice. Cleaned 3 times. Recovered after a virus. Repaired after she spilled coffee on the keyboard. What happened? I don't know. I see. She waited. So? Can you fix it? I closed the notebook in front of me. No. She swallowed. It's for work. I'm sure you'll find someone qualified. You are qualified. Yes. But I'm not available. She stared at the floor. For the first time since I'd known her, she had no sarcastic reply. Only disappointment. Not because she had hurt me. Because my usefulness had disappeared. She walked away quietly. I listened to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Years ago that sound would have sent me after her with a toolbox in my hand. This time I remained exactly where I was. Some lessons arrived through words. Others arrived through inconvenience. Theirs had finally begun. It took less than a week for the entire rhythm of the house to collapse. Not because I had done anything dramatic. Because I had stopped preventing problems before anyone noticed they existed. For years I had been the invisible space between inconvenience and disaster. No one appreciates a bridge until it disappears. Monday morning began with shouting upstairs. Brooke had overslept. Normally I would already have been in the driveway warming up the car because I knew she struggled to wake up after late shifts. This time I stayed at the kitchen table, drinking coffee while reading the news. She came running downstairs carrying one shoe in her hand. Ryan! I looked over the edge of my newspaper. What? I have to be at work in 20 minutes. I know. She blinked. Can you drive me? No. She looked genuinely stunned. I'm going to lose my shift. I hope not. She waited. So, that's it? That's it. She stood motionless for several seconds before grabbing her phone. 3 rideshare apps. No drivers nearby. 2 coworkers. Neither answered. Then Mark. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. She finally left nearly 40 minutes later after paying an expensive taxi fare that cost almost half her day's wages. She never looked at me as she walked out the door. By Tuesday evening, Haley's car was still sitting in the driveway. The repair estimate had become another problem she couldn't solve by simply waiting for me to notice it. Nicole stood beside the vehicle with her arms folded. They're saying it needs to be repaired this week. I nodded. I heard. You know they're charging almost $900. I know. You could fix half of it yourself. I probably could. She looked at me for a long moment. Ryan. I don't own the car. You've never cared about that before. No. I cared about family. Her shoulders dropped. There was no answer to that. Because every response led back to the same conversation. The same dinner. The same words. You'll never be real family. Wednesday brought another surprise. Brooke's laptop had died completely. Without it, she couldn't finish several assignments for the certification program she had started a few months earlier. I found her sitting at the dining room table surrounded by cables, chargers, and frustration. She looked up when I walked past. For a second I saw hope. Then hesitation. Finally she spoke. I called 3 repair shops. I stopped. They all want over $500. I see. They said the motherboard might be dead. I nodded once. They're probably right. Silence. Then quietly, almost unwillingly, she asked, would you at least look at it? There was no sarcasm. No attitude. Just exhaustion. I looked at the laptop. Then at her. I hope they fix it. She lowered her eyes. That's not what I asked? I know. I walked upstairs. Behind me I heard nothing. No slammed chair. No angry comment. Only silence. The kind of silence people make when they are finally forced to solve their own problems. Nicole changed the fastest. Within days she looked years older. Dark circles settled beneath her eyes. She was constantly checking schedules, rearranging appointments, borrowing cars, negotiating rides, answering calls during work meetings. One evening she sat beside me on the porch after dinner. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. The neighborhood was quiet. Children were riding bicycles at the end of the street. Sprinklers clicked across green lawns. Ordinary sounds. She broke the silence first. I didn't know. I kept looking toward the street. About what? How much you actually did. I smiled sadly. Neither did I. She frowned. What does that mean? It means I didn't realize I'd become everyone's solution. She rubbed her hands together. I thought we shared it. We didn't. No. We didn't. She looked down at the porch floor. I should have stopped them. I didn't answer. Because she already knew. After another minute she whispered. I kept thinking they'd grow out of it. They did. She looked confused. They grew into it. Her eyes filled with tears. This time I didn't feel angry. Just tired. Very tired. That Friday the biological father finally became involved. Not because he wanted to. Because he had no choice. Haley called him 3 times before he answered. I overheard part of the conversation from the garage while putting tools back into their drawers. Dad, my car? Silence. No, Ryan isn't helping anymore. Another pause. What do you mean take it to a mechanic? Longer silence. I can't afford that. More silence. Then the sentence that changed everything. But you've never paid for this stuff. The line went quiet. A few seconds later she lowered the phone slowly. She didn't cry. She simply stared at the screen as though it had betrayed her. Later that night I heard Brooke talking with Nicole in the hallway. I thought Dad would help. Nicole answered softly. He says he can't. But Ryan always. Her voice stopped. Not because she had finished the sentence. Because she had finally heard it herself. Ryan always. Those 2 words echoed through the hallway long after the conversation ended. Ryan always answered. Ryan always came. Ryan always fixed it. Ryan always paid. Ryan always knew what to do. Always. Until he didn't. Saturday morning I opened the garage to organize old tools I hadn't touched in months. The shelves were full of small reminders. A bicycle pump. Extra phone chargers. Boxes of spare screws. Headlight bulbs. Laptop memory sticks. Brake pads. Every shelf represented another problem I had solved for someone else. I picked up a worn socket wrench and turned it over in my hands. For years I had believed these tools built relationships. Now I understood something different. Tools repair machines. Respect repairs families. Without respect, every repair is temporary. Every sacrifice becomes expected. Every act of kindness becomes another unpaid bill waiting to arrive. Upstairs I heard another argument. Another missed ride. Another broken schedule. Another emergency. I stayed exactly where I was. For the first time in years, none of those emergencies belonged to me. The strange thing wasn't that the house had become louder. It was that I had finally found silence inside myself. And once I did, I discovered I wasn't the one who had needed them. They had needed me all along.